you. The City Council did not meet in closed session this evening. So if anyone here would like to speak on an item that's not on the agenda, you get 2 minutes to come on up and talk to us. Okay, not seeing anyone, we are going to move right along to the City Manager's report. Jim.
Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem. I have just one item to announce this evening, and sadly, I wanted to talk briefly about the passing of our former city clerk, Jean Leoncini. Jean passed away on Sunday, August 11th. She had been the city clerk for 30 years in San Rafael, which is amazing, from 1977 to 2007, and was also a longtime City of San Rafael resident as well. She was hired, I found, in 1972, and I went into the computer system today to find out her exact termination date, and there wasn't one because even though she retired in 2007, she never fully separated and would continue to come back and help out whenever she was needed. So she's still in our system as being willing to help whenever we need it, and I think that's just one small example of Jean's dedication to San Rafael, is that she was always here for us during her career and then always here for us even after she retired. It's an elected position, but on a day-to-day basis, it's the elected position that functions most like a staff member, and that she was here at City Hall every day and had operational responsibilities, which means that I've been here long enough to have overlapped with Jean for about 12 months, all of 2007. So, and even though it's only a year, I felt like she made a very lifelong impression on me from working together during that period of time. She struck me as the quintessential city clerk. In my mind, it's an unfaltering commitment to doing things right and capturing all the details for the sake of preservation and history. It's a job that deals with what's going on today, but it's also a job that keeps its eye on the future and preserving what's going on today for the future. It also meant an extreme dedication to professionalism and fulfilling the role the community entrusted with her. And I think it's quite a responsibility, and one that Jean lived up to every day. For those that worked with her, she marked up everything with a red pen. And everything needed to be well written, have correct grammar, and be written in a way that the council and the community was going to understand it, and especially staff reports. So those that worked with her were used to getting things back from her with red ink that said, these are the things that you need to change, because she knew that it was going to be a historical document forever. And at her retirement party, red pens were given out, probably to tease Jean, which she was always a good sport about, but also I like to think as a reminder of Jean to carry out the important things that she stood for. And I still have mine, and will always keep it as a reminder of the values that Jean brought to San Rafael and that she represented. So on behalf of staff, I just wanted to say thank you for Jean and what she meant to the city of San Rafael. There's going to be a celebration of her life at the First Presbyterian Church of San Rafael, 1510 Fifth Avenue, on Saturday, August 31st at 11:30 a.m. I'm going to bring my red pen, and anyone else who has one, I encourage you to do the same. I know Mayor Pro Tem Collin intends to close today's meeting in Jean's honor, so I want to thank you for that as well. Thanks.
I know, thank you. And I think all of us who pass through the doors, either applying for a board or commission or an elected official, got to work with Jean. So everything you said absolutely rang true, and she will be missed. Although her legacy lives on in all those historical documents. So, okay. So with that, I propose that we modify the agenda for item 7A, which is the grand jury, response to the grand jury report. If there would be a motion to do so, to continue to September 3rd.
I move that we continue item 7A to the September 30th? 3rd. September 3rd agenda.
Second.
Okay, is there any public comment? Seeing none, we'll bring it back. There's been a motion and a second.
Councilmember Bushy?
Aye.
Councilmember Gamblin?
Aye.
Mayor Pro Tem Collin?
Aye, so that motion carries 3-0. And now we are going to come down to in front of the dais and give a special presentation to Jack Robinson. What?
And we'll do the consent agenda.
Oh wait, I was already turned the page over. Sorry, you get to hold on for one more second. Before we do that, we have the consent calendar. Does anyone want to hold an item for the consent calendar?
Not.
Nope. Anyone in the audience like to address the council on any of the items on the consent calendar? Okay, come on down. Is it an item that you'd like to have held? Which item is it? The alarm. So we will actually have that as part of the agenda. So if you can sit tight, we will look forward to hearing your comments then. So, anyone else?
So to clarify then, I would move that we adopt the consent agenda, which is item 4A through D.
Second.
Okay, that's been moved and seconded. Roll call?
Councilmember Bushy.
Aye.
Councilmember Gamblin.
Aye.
Mayor Pro Tem Collin.
Aye. Okay, that passes 3-0. Now we'll go to the special presentation. Stand up here. Well, it's always a delight when we get to, just a tiny team back there, give a special proclamation because these are very important. We absolutely rely on the time that our community members give to us, and especially for the Planning Commission. And I actually got to serve with Jack as well. Did Mary Beth? I think you served with him just a little bit. So we have a proclamation that I'm going to read, and then we're going to ask you to say a few words. So whereas Jack Robertson began his role as the City of San Rafael Planning Commissioner in July 2011 and served for 8 years. Whereas in 2014 you served as the chair of the commission, and as chair, Jack was well known for his efficient management of meetings and gracious approach to facilitating public participation during public hearings. And whereas during his tenure, the Planning Commission reviewed numerous important community development projects which will positively impact the city for many decades, including the San Rafael Airport Facility, Northgate Mall renovations, Marin Academy Science Center, the Target store, the new public safety facility, the new Sun and VW building, and the 809 B Street residential development, as well as numerous other projects. And whereas Jack was an excellent listener and used his deep understanding of the development process to help the city evaluate proposals and find compromises. Whereas the city of San Rafael is privileged, honored, and proud to have had such an exceptional volunteer as Jack Robertson serving in the critical role of planning commissioner. Now for Kate Collin, I get to have my name on here because the mayor's out of town, Mayor Pro Tem of San Rafael, do hereby proclaim my sincere appreciation to Jack. So you get to say a few words.
Hey, everybody. I was going to I haven't been on this side of the podium before, but at least I don't have to stare at some intimidating people up on the dais. But anyway, thank you very much, Madam Mayor, whatever term that is when you're pro tem, yes, and city council persons. And it's very nice of you all to do this. Didn't expect this. But it's been a great 8 years. I've really enjoyed the experience and really found it a privilege to try to serve the city in some small way and hopefully had a small impact positively, hopefully, contributing to the vibrancy and the livability of San Rafael. I really enjoyed it and just really appreciate being appointed to the position. And personally, it was 20 years ago this month that my family and I moved to San Rafael, and I really got to know the city way better these last decade than the first decade. There's neighborhoods and streets in this town I never knew existed until I had to drive up and around to go see these places for an item on the agenda, and faked my way through those items when probably people in the audience thought I was well versed in all things San Rafael. But anyway, I really enjoyed getting to know the city better and a lot of the people within it. And then lastly, it was just such a pleasure working with staff for all these years and my fellow commissioners. In my day job, I do a lot of work with cities, planning departments, planning commissions. And I gotta say, the team here is, and not just these two characters, but the rest of them over the years, been really top notch. The memos have been great. they're just a wealth of information, and as much as I always tried to stump them sometimes, they always had an answer. So it was always kind of frustrating in that regard. I could never stump these guys. But anyway, thank you very much. Really appreciate it. I'll miss this. I saw my first Plan Commission item in the newspaper, I think it was last week, and I go, oh, I wasn't part of that. But I'm sure the rest of the team is doing a great job. Thank you very much.
Okay, with that, we'll move to item 6A, which is a public hearing on the alarm ordinance revision. And I think Dan Fink is going to come down and present to us.
Good evening. Thank you. I am here to update the long overdue intrusion alarm ordinance, section 8.20 of the San Rafael Municipal Code. We've been consulting with a representative of the Security Industry Alarm Coalition, retired Chief of Police from Sparks, Nevada, Steve Kiefer, who's also in the audience today to answer any technical questions, best practices, if you guys have anything for him as well. Our number one of our goal of our alarm program, it would be to reduce our false alarms. Those are very much a heavy drain on police resources. And last year in San Rafael, we had 2,412 calls for service, which was actually the number 4 call for service in all of the city. The drain is that an intrusion alarm takes 2 police officers to go to. So we have to free up the resources to get to an alarm call due to the fact that if we find an unlocked door or an open window, we have to have 2 officers go into a place to search it. Easy sometimes when it's a residence, sometimes when it's a 100,000 square foot commercial building, could take a very long time and extra resources. So one of the things we're trying to look at is how can we tighten up the ordinance to stop false alarms. We'll probably never stop them from all coming, but something we can do to reduce them. So one of the problems with our ordinance currently is that we eliminated the registration fee a few years ago, and with no incentive for people to register their alarms, our data is now old. We have outdated information. We don't really know how many alarm permits we have in the city. We don't know premise information on people when we go to their houses to find stuff out, whether we need to call them to board up a room. So that's one of these things that's we really need to tighten up on. The new ordinance really modernizes the ordinance, brings us more in line with what other cities are doing. The Security Alarm Industry Coalition advises us on what other towns are doing to try to tighten up their alarms. And unfortunately, what we found is that you really need to have a strict ordinance. With a strict ordinance, the stats have shown that if you have a strict ordinance, people are less likely to have an error in the alarm system, which most of the causes are human error. And unfortunately, the only way to change that behavior is to have a fee structure that unfortunately punishes people who get false alarms. The nice part about the strict ordinance is that the stats have shown is that if you have a strict ordinance, a lot of the cities have shown between 88 to 95% of their residents will actually have 1 or less alarm malfunction in the year because they know it might cost them if they have a lot more. Also, this addresses people who can be suspended or have a verified response for a nuisance alarm. This is also another common problem that we have where we go to an alarm call numerous times through the year. Secondary verification would be like multiple zones are tripped, so that way we actually know it's more likely that somebody's inside of a building. Allows us to do a different response for that. The next step for our program, if you guys approve the ordinance, is to approve it for January 1st, and we're going to be looking at outsourcing our alarm program. Currently, the Chief's Administrative Assistant, Anita Rose, spends about 30% of her time on the alarm program. printing letters, stuffing envelopes. It's very antiquated. Our software for this program is extremely old and frankly not very efficient anymore. So that would be kind of part 2 of what we're looking at doing down the road. That's pretty much about it. I can answer any questions if you guys have anything for us.
Thank you. Questions? Mary Beth?
Give me more detail on this, on outsourcing. What do you envision there?
Sure. We haven't gone too far into it because obviously we want to do part 1 first. But I've done some research, spoke to a couple of the outsourcing companies. There's probably about 3 or 4 that actually in the United States that do outsourcing. They will basically run the entire program for us. They'll have an online system for customers so people don't have to come into City Hall. It's very easy, user-friendly. I've been to their sites. It's very self-explanatory. Timely bill reminders, registration fees all online. It's very smooth. Most communities that use them have absolutely no problem with their service. Great customer service. And of course, it'll free up our Chief's Administrative Assistant to do other job duties as well.
I think that sounds like a great idea, and I'm sure you'll be open to considering whether our own digital services organization could be a part of that.
Oh yeah, I've actually talked to Sean Mooney a little bit about some of that as well, internally as well.
Fantastic, thank you.
So for those of us who did the $74 permit fee 6, 7, 8 years ago, are we going to get a letter now that says $20 and we'll get that every year? How long will that take before that starts going into effect?
So January 1st will be the ordinance if approved by the council, and then the company will be given all our data. So whatever company is chosen through the RFP process will be given all the information from our current, we put in quotes because we don't know what's really current, and then they will follow up with letters to everybody informing them of what's going to happen, and it'll be a rolling program. So if you've already done your alarm permit for this year with us, like let's say it's September 1st, you will be notified of the new ordinance and new program, but you won't have to renew until the following September. So it's a rolling program.
Okay.
And to follow up on that question, how are you going to capture those who haven't registered or ever registered?
Yeah, the best way that we're going to do it is really through outreach, through community outreach, through our social media platforms, through just, we're doing some neighborhood meetings coming up in September. I'm sure we'll recommend, let people know about that as well. Hopefully maybe we can get a press release and get the media to put something out. But also when the alarm companies who work with Chief Kiefer, they know that when they contact new people, hey, I want an alarm at my house at 123 Main Street. Okay, well, you need to make sure you contact the city of Santa Fe to talk about any permit stuff. So once they call us, then we'll forward them to our company that does our program, and they'll enlighten them on everything.
Will people be able to register online?
Yes.
So it'd be super easy.
Totally online.
And then my other question was, do you have a sense of the people that have first and second false alarms? Because the other part about this is if you are non-compliant and you keep having your alarm go off, I'm curious what percentage of the huge number of false alarms have second and third? Is that do the majority just have one, or?
No, it's definitely, I mean, I don't have the exact
No, I'm
numbers,
just
but they're
kidding.
definitely, they're chronic alarms. A lot of the ones we go to are chronic, and some of them are even more than the 8 that we put in the ordinance.
Okay.
And it's really just it's an educational piece. It's
Okay.
typically human error and just being careless, as kind of we talked about with when you have an ordinance that is a little bit loose, you'll see more people having false alarms.
Great. Any other questions? Okay, going to open the public hearing on this. Anyone would like to talk to the council or give comments? We're ready for you, sir. If you could give your name, that would be great.
My name's John Sowden. I'm the owner of American Century Systems. I guess I've lived in San Rafael since 1969, and I've operated an alarm company in San Rafael since '71. I heard nothing about this except a couple of days ago, a customer mentioned it in reference to Nextdoor. This has happened in years past where the alarm industry is not mentioned in the writing of the ordinance or changing of the ordinance. I helped write our first one back in 1977. There are a few things about this. I talked to the mayor about 2 years ago for about 10 or 15 minutes trying to convince him to keep the fee in place. And he said, no, that we're not going to do that. And apparently there was some story about a friend of his said you were paying $70 or something for only doing data entry. And I tried to explain to the mayor, no, they do a lot more than that. They keep track of the alarms and all this sort of thing. He didn't want to listen to it at all. And this is what I thought was going to happen, is you were going, because all the cities see, gee, here's a revenue stream, we want to get in on it. The key is that for 42 years, we've had a one-time fee that's gone up from $20 up to, I guess the thing says 74, the last one I remember was 60. And this has worked well for 42 years. Now all of a sudden, it's not enough money. We're going to spend what I think is estimated at $15,000 a year to have some outside company fall into their system of online stuff. I have never gone to City Hall because I'm in.
Just go ahead and
Am I
finish
done?
your thought. Yeah, you are, but finish your thought. Yeah, go ahead.
To file for a permit. Yet I take care of that for all of my customers, and I tried to explain that to the mayor. That's paying the fee, and it gives me the opportunity to talk to him about the ordinance. Of course, I kind of connected to it, and but now we're going off and doing something else. I think a couple of the things are good. It would be interesting to know, you were touching on the current ordinance, you're allowed 2 alarms a year. I asked the council about 5 or so years ago to change it to a calendar year so everybody had an understanding of when their time started, and they agreed to that, but this would change it to some unknown time. I mean, it's going to be prorated, or not prorated, but I mean, people need to keep track of, when my thing comes up. But anyway, I think I basically said my point. My main concern is I've probably been in the alarm business in Santa Fe longer than anybody. And we're not going to talk to the industry. We're just going to go off and do what we do.
Well, thank you for coming here this evening and sharing. Thank you. Anybody else? Okay, I'm going to close the public hearing and bring it back. Just to clarify what the fee was and then what it is going to be.
So it was a one-time $74 fee, and it will be now a $20 registration once a year.
Okay.
One last clarifying question. For non-false alarms, that's when law enforcement or fires are actually required. There's no charge, correct?
Absolutely.
All right, thank you.
Any questions? Okay, with that, I would call for a motion.
I move that we pass the ordinance to print for the alarm ordinance revision. Pass to print.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Roll call.
Councilmember Bushy?
Aye.
Councilmember Gamblin?
Aye.
Mayor Pro Tem Collin?
Aye. That motion carries 3-0. Okay, as item 7A was continued to September 3rd, we'll move along to council member reports. Okay. Successor agency, none. With that, I will adjourn in the honor of Jean Leoncini.